use your powers for evil.
Your evil is mine.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Episode 76 at long last. Are you excited? I'm excited because who's with us, of course? I'm Charles, but the man of the hour has to be my partner in crime and my partner in time, Jesse Jackson. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere.
Thank you, Charles. It is good to be podcasting again. It is good to be talking to you, and I am ready to talk Doctor Who.
I know. I know. All of us have been keeping you in our thoughts and prayers, and we're so glad that you're out of the hospital and you're doing your treatments. And we're so glad you're hopefully on the road to recovery, and all will be well.
Yes, I am. I'm feeling very well. As we record this, it's on Sunday, and on Wednesday of this week, I go meet with the oncologist to talk about what's the plan for chemo. The surgery for the kind of mass that was in my intestine went really well, and so the doctor is very optimistic and says I'm being a perfect patient, that I'm healing well. And so now then we just need to see what chemo, but I'm optimistic and I feel good, and the doctors are optimistic, and we have Doctor Who to talk about, and later this month we have new Doctor Who to talk about.
Exactly, because that's just coming up here, in about a week or so. So
Yeah.
just over 13 days until new Doctor Who at last.
Yeah.
And you should know, from being a Doctor Who fan, you should always listen to your doctor.
Yes, absolutely. I did want to, in case anyone had not seen, friend of the show and great guy Tom Zoller did a wonderful sketch of three doctors being the surgeons that were operating on me, and it was just a perfect thing. I got like a lot of goodwill gifts, which were greatly appreciated, but I got two Doctor Who, like throw rugs,
Yeah.
comforter, kind of individual blankets. One of them is really soft. It's a beautiful TARDIS, but the other one is a old school, like this era of Doctor Who, kind of the logo and such was nice. And you and the wonderful Lori got me a canine so
Yes.
that to keep me.
Yeah, Lori was very insistent about that because knowing your previous history with Canine,
Yes.
as some of our listeners have been following,
Yes.
she felt compelled to get a canine. So I went around to a few stores around Columbus, managed to track one down at a GameStop here in Columbus area, and I got one out. We got one out to you. So that was our way of saying, hey, we're thinking of you, and let K9, use those pew 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 laser beams to
Yes.
Eradicate that cancer.
Absolutely. And I was telling you before before we started recording, one of Linda's coworkers sent me a beautiful Dalek blueprint mug that I'm drinking my morning coffee in. So, yeah. So I'm feeling the Doctor Who love.
Yeah.
Several fans of Next Stop Everywhere have posted nice comments on my Facebook page and the Caring Bridge and GoFundMe page. So I'm feeling the love. What can I tell you?
Well, you should, because we all love you, and we're just so glad that you're out of the hospital, that your procedure went well, and we wish you nothing but the best for the future. And hopefully, your treatment is a absolute success.
Yes, absolutely. I am optimistic, and we're all feeling good. But enough about me. Let's talk Doctor
Well,
Who.
I do want to
Okay.
bring up one quick thing before we
Yeah.
move on. You're apparently sporting a new look these days, and so
Yes.
I have to talk about this, because for those, I guess we should take a picture of Jesse.
Mhm.
I should take a picture of Jesse as like a freeze frame, if that's okay with you.
Yes, please.
So you maybe hold up your mug or something, and then
Okay.
I'll take a little still shot. We'll post that to let everybody up a little higher. We'll tilt that up a little bit. There you go. Yes, that's a good one. Okay, so I got a print screen here, so
Okay.
we'll get that posted. But Jesse's rocking a new look. Looks vaguely War Doctor-ish, in
Uh,
my opinion.
there is a little bit of that.
You're rocking the goatee. Actually got a little bit of a faux hawk going, like the War
Yeah.
Doctor. So I think that's a really good look for you.
So what had happened is when I went into the hospital
You look all hip now.
on February 28th, when I checked in the hospital the first time, I was due for a haircut. And then for the next 3 weeks, I was basically in the hospital, was out maybe a day or two, and then back in. And my
Right?
hair was driving me crazy. So I told Linda and Chris, I said, when I get out, I'm just cutting it all off because um, I didn't know if I'm going to lose any hair during chemo, and I just decided. And the other thing is, you don't shave when you're in the hospital,
Right.
so so this is my hospital slash cancer goatee. So yes, I don't know how long I'm going to keep it, and I will tell you, I don't like the hairstyle this short.
Yeah.
Um, but it is great as far as usage.
It's got to save you time in the morning.
It does save me time, and it also it does if you do not feel like showering right away,
Yep.
you don't feel greasy or anything. So
Yep.
yes, it's been very different, and I think I look grumpy though. Is the only
No,
thing.
the War Doctor is a little grumpy. He was Captain
Absolutely,
Grumpy,
absolutely.
but it worked for him.
Well,
So
yes, it did.
yeah.
Um,
All right. So let's talk some Doctor Who now, because that's obviously why we're here. Everybody's been waiting.
yes.
I tried to keep everybody updated about your condition, so that they could send their positive thoughts toward you, and I tried to line up some guest hosts. I tried to line up our editor, Rob Southgate.
Yeah.
But Rob kind of kept pushing me off here a little, because he's busy as a giraffe in The Lion King
Absolutely.
performance with his, I guess, a local group or something.
Yeah.
And so that didn't sadly happen, but that's okay, because that means we could return to our previously scheduled plans with the Key to Time. And today we're going to talk about the Power of Kroll. Yes, the Power of Kroll, that infamous Doctor Who story from 1978, the fifth story fifth serial in the Key to Time saga. So we're resuming with our Key to Time saga. We're going to hopefully finish that up here shortly, because we got a new season of Doctor Who to talk about. So we need to kind of knock the Key to Time out.
Absolutely,
possible.
I totally agree with you. Yeah, we should be able to do that, Charles. That way we can be fresh with the new, because there's lots to discuss. We have a new companion. We have the final season of this Doctor. A lot of good stuff.
Yeah, we have some new Series 10 news that came out over the weekend. So I'd like to talk about that maybe at the end of the episode.
I think that's perfect.
But it's pretty big news, I think, in the world of Doctor Who to talk about. This story was written by Robert Holmes, who normally writes really good Doctor Who. This time, however, not so much.
So I'm taking you didn't care for this episode.
A lot of fans don't traditionally care for this episode.
So
I'm kind of curious to get your thoughts on this.
And I think it.
And it was directed by Norman Stewart, I should point out. Okay.
I think that they may have gone a little heavy-handedly on the British imperial colonization. This whole
taking over indigenous tribes and peoples and whatnot. And,
Yeah. But I do think that um, Thawne as a villain was a
right.
really good stereotypical stiff upper lip British, you know, yes,
Aristocratic, feels morally superior to
yes.
everyone and is willing to do whatever it takes to achieve his
Yeah.
objectives.
So I think I like this one more, and maybe because I was just in the mood to watch Doctor Who after being away from it so long. I certainly do not think, we've talked about during this key of time that, in my opinion, you need a really good villain, you need to have a good companion and doctor, and then you need to have someone that they're interacting with that you care about. This doesn't have that, but it does have uh, a Harry Mudd light, the gun dealer,
Right.
not as good as.
That's a very timely
Yes,
reference, I might
indeed.
add.
Not as,
If you're a Star Trek fan, you'll
yeah,
know
not
why.
as
But
good as the people in the Rebos, operations, but it was interesting, and so I kind of like this. A lot of outdoor scenes, and it looked different. It wasn't just the normal forest that you see. The kind of swamp lands was different to see.
it is a very unusual location. I will grant you that because we don't get a lot of swamp locations for obvious reasons because they're almost like a production nightmare.
Absolutely.
Which is one of the reasons we don't see Canine in this
We do
story.
not. We they
So this probably raise your grade a little because there was no Canine
No, no,
in the
no. I
story.
have learned my lesson. Canine, every canine makes everything better. Uh,
Ah, you have learned the
yes.
way.
Um, for those of you who drink bourbon, there is a saying that bitters makes bourbon better. So
Okay,
canine makes Doctor Who better. Um,
there you
yeah.
go. Now, did it feel a little different with this without Canine in the story?
Um,
After watching him for a few stories where he was interacting with the Doctor and Romana.
no, it didn't. I guess because it's still, because of my history, I'm used to seeing more Doctor Who without K9 than with him. I did like, um, it, it did seem that there was a lot of time spent with the Swampies and the Dryfoots, and in a lot of ways,
Which I have to wonder why it's not dry feet.
yes,
But
Dryfoots, yes.
dry foot. Why is it dry foots instead of dry
Yes.
feet? Just wondering.
I was a little bit surprised, spoilers, that the key to time was the the monster. I did not see that
Yeah.
coming. I
Well, so that was a nice
That was
twist.
a
That's
nice
good.
twist. Yeah, overall, I think this was pretty.
You enjoyed it. You actually
Yes, I
enjoyed
did. I
this one.
enjoyed it a lot. Yes.
Well, good. I'm glad you did. And hopefully, yeah, after getting some Doctor Who after being away from it for a little while, hopefully it gave you a nice welcome home feeling.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So let's get into this. I want to get into the general overview a little bit. Um, so we essentially this is a story where we have the fourth Doctor and Romana arriving on the marsh moon of this planet called Delta Magna in search of the next segment to the key to time. And as Jesse pointed out, this is very swampy terrain. So K9 wasn't used. Now we did have some pretty notable guest stars in this story. I don't know if you kind of looked into this a little bit, but we have some that I kind of want to mention before we get into
Please.
this. Thawne, you brought up Thawne. He was played by an actor named Neil McCarthy, and if he looks a little familiar, if you're an '80s movie fan, he played the villain Calibos in the original Clash of the Titans.
Ah, okay.
The guy who's like cursed and he gets kind of like a demonic
Yes.
form with the tail, and yeah, he was the main villain in that one. And he also was in the movie Time Bandits, Terry Gilliam classic, or yeah, I think it was I think Terry
I think
Gilliam
you're right.
directed Time Bandits, but if I'm wrong on that, I apologize. And then he was also in a previous Doctor Who story called The Mind of Evil, which was a John Pertwee story, as this character named George Patrick Barnum. And we have another actor, Philip Madoc, who played Fenner, who was kind of like the number 2 in
Right.
command, or the number one. He is a notable Doctor Who actor. He's appeared in several Doctor Who uh, stories. He played first. He played this character named Brochet in the movie Daleks: Invasion of Earth 2150 A.D., which was the Peter Cushing adaptation of the Doctor Who story, The Dalek Invasion of
Right.
Earth, back in the 60s. He played a character named Elek in a Patrick Troughton story called The Crotons. Now, he's most famous for the next 2 roles, the Warlord in the last Patrick Troughton story, The War Games.
Okay.
So he was the big villain in the War
Right.
Games. And he was also Dr. Solon, the kind of one of the big bads, the kind of Dr. Frankenstein guy in the Tom Baker story, The Brain of Morbius.
Okay.
So dude has some serious Doctor
It
Who
does.
creds to his. We had an actor named John Albaneri who played Ranquin. He's actually gone on to some notable film work. He was in the movie Diamonds Are Forever, so we have another James Bond connection. He was in The Godfather Part 3. And he was also in a few Doctor Who stories. He played Van Lutens in Patrick Troughton's story Fury from the Deep. He played General Carrington in a great John Pertwee story, The Ambassadors of Death. And he played the character named Richard Rattleton in another John Pertwee story, Death to the Daleks.
Okay.
So there's a couple more, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to go down the whole list. But just some notable guys that I wanted to talk about. So if you see some guys who look kind of familiar, and I should point out that because K9 was not in this story, John Leeson, the actor who does the voice of K9, actually appears in this story as himself. Well, not as himself, but he plays a character named Dougine, who is kind of like the guy. He was one of the guys at the controls that was monitoring Kroll.
Right. He was the.
And going.
Wasn't he?
He's the guy. He's the guy who gets shot by Thawne.
Okay.
In episode 4, when everything goes to hell. Yeah. And so yeah, that was actually John Leeson, the guy who does the voice of K9.
Well,
so he kind of sort of makes it into the episode because he didn't appear as
That's
K9,
very cool.
So
this is a really
and that was his only on-screen appearance in Doctor Who, by the way.
A very strong guest cast, because they felt, especially the British. And by the way, I'm not a cosplayer, but that looks like it would be a fairly cool. Their uniforms would be a fairly cool thing to cosplay, because it was a
pretty easy to put together too.
Yeah,
probably.
It was really nice, and all of them having that sense of arrogance.
I would love to see somebody go as Kroll, personally.
Yeah.
That would be the cosplay achievement, to go as Kroll.
Yes, and only if it looks good from the front, right? Because the doctor said, well, it was probably easier to tell it was fake from the back.
And then you need to have some guys as Swampies following him around going, Kroll, dun, 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 Kroll, dun, 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 Kroll, dun, dun, dun.
I liked their. They all had that, with the exception of the young guy in front of the, computer screen, who seemed to be sympathetic to the.
Swampies.
What was it? What was the rebel service? The people of Earth, or
the Sons of Earth.
Sons of Earth.
Yeah, Sons of Earth. Yeah, that was John Leeson's character.
I liked him a lot, and I just thought this whole arrogance and
So of course he dies. The likable guy dies because the douchebag villain kills him off.
Yes, and the little metal cups of drinks, and when they visit with the doctor, and they don't even count the Swampy, he isn't even worthy to discuss. I could see how people might think this was a little heavy-handed, but I enjoyed it, and I thought they executed pretty well to it. So, yeah, thanks for
Okay.
pointing out the cast because I do think they all did a good job.
Well, I especially wanted to point out John Leeson because that's a very cool Easter egg if
Yes.
you're a Doctor Who
Yes.
fan. Let's get into the meat of the
Okay.
discussion now. So let's start off with my first topic of the discussion. Good vibrations. Good
Well, and
vibrations.
by the way, I need to give
And that's the fourth Doctor in
we
Romana.
need to give credit to the wonderful agenda. Charles, and he has an audience of one, but he always
Yeah.
tries to entertain me and himself. Um,
Well, I know you're a Beach Boys
yes.
fan,
Um,
so I thought I'd throw
yeah,
that in
but
there for
the
you.
second topic was the power of Kroll.
Yeah.
And then we're doing
Well,
good vibrations, and I will hold off the
yeah.
next topic
Yeah, please.
of song puns. Um, you know, you continue just
Yeah, because you could do the Huey Lewis. It's the power of
yes.
Kroll.
Um, you just continue to love Romana. I
Mary Tamm
yes,
as
she
Romana.
is just amazing. Um, I I was wondering if it, the doctor looked overdressed a little bit in the swamp. But a lot of times when they're visiting these worlds and they're filming in England, it's damp and it's cold. This swamp
Right.
looked warm, and I was feeling a little bit for Baker.
Well, you had guys, these swampy guys, running around practically, like with very little
Yes.
clothing, little scraps of clothing
Yeah.
on top of their like mop broom
Yes.
hairstyles.
Um.
That yeah, because they basically look like their hairs look just like somebody's janitor mops. They like okay, go to the store and get a bunch of janitor
And
mops,
green
and then
dye, and that's our.
and green dye, and that'll be their
Mhm.
wigs. But yeah, he does seem a little overdressed, especially when like we talked about stories about like the Planet of
Mhm.
Fire with Peter Davison, where he kind of ditches his overcoat and he's just rocking the
Right.
suspenders. He even gets rid of his pullover sweater, and he just has those cool question mark suspenders on.
Yeah.
And I don't care what anybody says; those are cool
Those are very
suspenders.
cool suspenders, and I like that look. I like it when the doctor seems to not be, you know,
A slave to his
that is the
costume.
perfect word. Yes, and so, but I liked that he took the reeds and made a little whistle out of it.
Yeah.
Um, his green boots in the swamp. But he and
At least they were smart enough to wear boots,
yeah,
and Romana didn't wear high heels in this
yes, I
one.
did think Romana was dressed appropriate for the swamp.
Maybe she learned her lesson after the Stones of Blood.
Yes, absolutely. But once again, I think um, it is always interesting when Romana is. Why are we getting involved in this? We're
Hmm.
here to get the piece of, the key to time. Let's get it and get out of Dodge. And the doctor, his curiosity, his sense of justice, whatever drives him, thank goodness, or else we would have very boring stories. He,
Well, yeah, we needed the doctor because Romana is so just task
yes,
focused that we need someone to get us into the adventure.
yeah,
And the doctor obviously plays this part because he's just like his whole thing is, well, we're traveling through time. We've got all the time in the world to look for
yeah.
these things.
I also love the interchange with I dropped the little magic wand, the locator, and he goes, "Oh
Right.
no, yeah, I found it." I mean, he doesn't, he doesn't let her worry
you think
long at
you think
all. He's just like immediately,
you think they would put that thing on a chain
yes,
or something,
absolutely,
like because it gets so lost so
mm-hmm,
easily.
absolutely.
All right. So, um, kind of curious what you thought about that sequence where the Doctor Romana and Ramdot, the Harry Mudd-like character, to use your
Hmm.
reference, which I think is a great one, great comparison, whether they're tied to the rack and they pull by those vines as part of the seventh ritual of Kroll, where they have these like creeper vines that when they dry out, they stretch or they constrict. So the way they've got this rack set up is that when the um, when the creeper vines dry out and they're stretched out, that it pulls on their backs and their legs to basically it's like they're being stretched to death. That's the whole plan. So I'm kind of curious what you thought of that whole
I
sequence.
really like that sequence. In fact, it was, I think maybe because it was such a great death trap, not a suicide trap. They had to get out while they were young. Thank you.
I see what you did there. Very clever.
You know, I like the doctor being obsessed with the window, thinking ahead, them, the banter back and forth. It was a clever torture device.
Right.
And him, his piercing, note to break the window so that it would come in. I just thought that was whole sequence.
Yeah. Apparently, the doctor has a canary cry, like Black Canary, that he can use to shatter windows, which is something we've never seen before, and haven't since.
But didn't he mention some famous soprano opera singer? Because wasn't there an opera singer that supposedly could be able to do that?
There actually are a number of opera singers that supposedly, if they hit that certain note, you can shatter a glass.
So that's what I think he make a reference to that they weren't the only one. So I thought of it more of that, though I like the canary cry better. I think that's a better reference.
Well, it does seem more like a canary cry.
Yes, it does.
Because he projected that thing all the way up and shattered this roof window, so it allowed the rainwater to come through and moisten the creeper vines, so they loosened, so they could get out of the trap.
Yes, and then he got out.
Which again, this is why I call this good vibrations.
Yes,
because obviously.
And then I love the fact that he took the broken, glass and cut the vines for the others, and they escaped. That was just a really cool sequence, and because sometimes the traps that we find the doctor in can be lame, but I thought this was. I thought it was fairly. It fit with the territory. It fit with the world they were in. It fit with the whole swampies, the games, everything. Yeah, so it was well done.
Okay, well, I'm glad you liked it. All right. Anything else about the Fourth Doctor Romana in this story you want to talk about before we move on?
No. I think it was good stuff, and not as much banter back and forth between them, though there is. And this may make your quotes, but the whole introduce me, and she doesn't say anything. He goes, I knew you should do a better job of introducing me, right?
No, you didn't spoil me on this one. But I do have a couple we can talk about. But no, not this time. No, you didn't get me this time. All right. So let's move on to our second topic. And our second song title reference, I Love Rocks and Kroll.
Yes.
So put another dime in the jukebox, baby.
Yes.
Little Joan Jett. A little Joan Jett here on the countdown. I'm Casey Kasem.
So the
and this is referring to the Swampies and Kroll themselves.
Yes.
So I want to get your take on them. Obviously I want to talk about what you thought of Kroll as this big hulking monster that just kind of peers from like the bottom of the screen, like it's, you can see where they use this technique called I think it's combined separation overlay or something like that. It's called CSO, and it's a video technique where they can, it's almost like photoshopping the image into another image. And so they have Kroll. There's like a cutoff portion of the bottom half of the screen, which is supposedly like reeds, and it looks like the swamp. And then you see Kroll kind of like popping out from behind the reeds, and he goes, "Hi, everybody," and then he pops right back on. It goes right back under.
I think this is a great example when critics of classic Who talk about poor special effects, right?
Right.
I
With the tentacles
yes.
everywhere that look so ridiculously
Now you may
fake.
find this hard to believe, Charles, but I tend to go toward the optimistic and more
Yes.
positive. You know,
Well, and that's why you're awesome, Jesse, because that's why we
yes.
love you, because you are so optimistic.
You know, I think let's forgive for what it was. You know, it was the time period they did the best they could. Um, it
Do you think the ambition of the story exceeded the reality of their production?
yes. I mean, I think it would.
Like they got a little too ambitious with the story.
Yeah, and I think they wanted to show this huge, giant, squid, octopus creature. Um,
It's like a Cthulhu type
yeah.
monster.
Uh,
That giant
yes.
squid and the causing chaos. So
Yeah.
it's very HP Lovecraft a little
Yeah.
bit. This
And
monster,
it didn't bother me the scenes with the tentacles coming out of the like
the drain
tubing and drain
pipes.
pipes and everything.
Yeah,
I thought that was fine. Um, the I think it was interesting that they had the fake Kroll at the very beginning where it was very Kroll, the sacrifice and
yeah. And you had a dude dressed up as
yes.
Kroll.
And
What?
Romana had the kind of um, not really afraid. Like, okay, I know either I'm going to regenerate or things are going to be fine. I'm not overly worried about this. But
Right.
and then you actually had the real Kroll, which we have already determined is the key to time. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. I'm a little vague about, um, there was some kind of goofy science being discussed, the MacGuffin about they couldn't really get that much energy out of this world and how they're going to
Right.
take it over and everything. And that was I kind of glossed that over and I said, okay, yes, they're the big bad, you know, um, main person taking over the small planet. But and they
Right.
kind of tried to explain that at the end about this, they were pulling this from this creature or something. So I didn't really get it, but you know,
Well, we can get into
okay,
it when we get into our next
okay.
topic. But so what did you think about the Swampies?
Um, they were really bad makeup. Yeah,
Yes, they are.
that's
This is I watched this story, and maybe it's just because I'm not as optimistic
right.
as you, but I kind of like whenever I watch The Power of Kroll, I expect like Joel and the bots from Mystery Science Theater 3000 to pop up from the bottom of the screen
Yeah.
and start making fun of what's going on. And the Swampies are definitely something I think they would make fun of
Yes.
because they do have this really horrible, like greenish, like silvery makeup
Right.
on, which does not work at all, and it just looks slapped on.
And they also
And with those mop
yes.
hair, like
And there also
hairstyle.
is a little bit of like a bad 40s Western where the Native Americans are we need more guns, and the evil
Right.
trader is like, gonna give them guns and I thought it was
What?
you know we had that whole scene they're gonna fight. I thought that was an interesting twist too that even though he said you need to clean them first, he did the Mud Light did sell them bad weapons. Yeah.
Right. One thing I thought was interesting is we didn't really see any female Swampies, did we?
I do not think we did. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of curious, I think.
I had not thought that, but now that you think about, yeah, I don't know if they just didn't want to.
How did but they're just hiding out somewhere. They're
Yes.
like, we're not dealing with this
Yeah.
Kroll thing. We're gonna just stay inside
Yeah.
and we're gonna Netflix and chill. That's all we're gonna
Exactly.
do.
Yes. Yeah. Um. Yeah. I think the overall, and I think you said it best, Charles. I believe their ambition, um, was a little bit. They they weren't quite up. This makeup, special effects, budgets were not where they needed to be to tell the
Okay.
story. I think that is a fair assessment.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to our next
Hmm.
topic. The Delta Magna Magna in
Yeah.
parentheses, quandary. So that was my little sly attempt at like a Star Trek Voyager
Yes.
reference, the Delta
Yes.
Quadrant. So the Delta Magna Quandary, which is a reference to Thawne, Fenner, and the Dryfoots,
Yes.
aka Dry Feet.
Yes.
And so let's talk about Thawne and Fenner and what they're doing, because their whole deal here is that um, they're trying to mine. They're overseeing this mining
Yes.
operation, where they're mining like methane, and they're from the swamp gases, I guess. I don't know if like Kroll's producing these things. I think that maybe that's why they're watching Kroll. But yeah, these have these huge like methane deposits or whatever. Then and that's what they're mining for. And it seems a little, I don't know. I'm not sure why it's become this huge methane processing operation,
Yeah.
but I just see, I just kind of thought it was a little weird. But that's basically what they're doing there is they're just mining the area for methane. Um, I don't know why they didn't just get a bunch of cows and save themselves a bunch of trouble.
Um, like I said, that was it. I did not really understand the purpose, except in general terms, they're trying to strip this planet of its natural resources, and they don't care who
Essentially,
gets in the way.
yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think it was just like, okay, yeah, they're mining stuff and they're exploiting these
Yes.
people. That was the gist of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about Thawne. What did you think about him as a villain?
I thought he was really good. I think he was this wonderful arrogance, be it the really nasty British, you know, eh, ruler, or the ugly American, whatever you want to do, a stereotypical, you know, I'm not going to let anything get in my way of doing this, and I don't care who it hurts. He was really well done, and um, the actor had this sense of regal, I'm greater than thou, which was, yes, arrogance.
Arrogance.
It was really enjoyable to see. I liked him as a villain. I was glad that it was easy to pull against him. And in fact, I think,
And you were glad when Kroll got him
yes,
at the end.
I think in a lot of ways, um, it's always better when you can sympathize with the villain, and I think that would have made the story a little bit better if there had been this not.
Or I'm sorry, I forgot. I'm sorry, the Swampies killed
Yeah.
Thawne because they shot him with the
Yeah.
arrow. That's right. I'm
The
sorry.
this is very black and white. There, and I think sometimes, well, all TV shows, but not just Doctor Who, but all of them, is when you have a little gray area, it makes for a better story. This was very clear. We're exploiting these people and we're wrong.
The villains were very clearly defined, is what you're saying.
Yes,
Okay.
and except for the couple of the young guy that died, that we now find out that is actually the voice of K9, right? He actually
Right.
was a little more sympathetic and like, oh, do we really need to do this or not? So I thought that was a nice twist, but it,
It gave a contrary
yes,
viewpoint, and it also says that, well, hey, all these guys aren't a-holes. It's just Thawne is the
right,
a-hole.
and
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 go
so
ahead.
I just was gonna say, as much as I love a complex villain, I think this story with its the simple storyline, the very evil, arrogant, villain worked in the context of this story, and I think it
Right.
served the story well. There's Doctor Who's where you watch over and over again because you get more complex and you can enjoy the depths of the story. This is a pretty simple, Like
Cut and
I could
dried.
see
Cut and
I could
dried.
see if we were like, okay, hey, I feel like revisiting the Key of Time. Oh, this is the one I can skip, or just watch the last chapter on it,
Right.
because there's not a lot of
It does. There's not a lot to like. You have to like
right.
follow or like or think about. It's very cut and
Yes.
dried. So we had Fenner, of course, who's that another counterpoint character to Thawne.
Hmm.
Um, interesting. I thought it was interesting. The Doctor and Romana just kind of walk off at the end and leave Fenner to the mercy of the Swampies,
Yes.
even though he really didn't do anything wrong, did he?
You know,
Or is it just because he was complicit in the mining operation?
it this
Do you think that was just his just desserts?
probably not. I think in a little case this was um okay, story's over. We've got our key. Let's move on. It's like nothing else to talk about. Let's move on.
Yep. Okay. Fair enough. So yeah, we got the fifth segment to the key to time. Just one more to
Yes,
go.
I'm excited.
And so is there anything else about the story you wanted to talk about before we move on?
Um, no, like I said, this is I think because I was in the mood to watch Doctor Who, I enjoyed
Right.
this more.
You just enjoyed a nice little like tale about a giant squid
Yes.
monster that wrecks a base that is exploiting these indigenous people.
Yeah, and I think what unlike I will make sure I'm on the record, no canine did not raise the level of this, but the sequence with the being stretched and the vines,
Yeah.
that was a really good sequence, and I think that brought up, that was a good trap, and I liked how the doctor got out of it and the whole sequence, and I think that helped raise the episode back to where it's more than just a forgettable episode.
I totally agree. I think that's a great
Yes.
analysis. All right, so let's move on to our favorite
Okay.
quotes. So hopefully you have a couple. I have a couple, so I'd like to hear yours.
Um,
Why don't you go ahead and
you
start?
shot the wrong man's hat when they think they shot him, and he goes, "No, no, no!
Yeah,
You shot the wrong man's hat." I thought that was a pretty funny, a very doctor-like quote, and very much
right.
in character of the Fourth Doctor.
Yep, I totally agree. And kind of following up on that exchange where Thawne and his crew capture the Doctor. Um, the one of the lines I liked was when Tom Baker's Doctor comes back and says, "Will there be strawberry jam for tea?"
I like that. Um,
Which is a typical doctor,
yes.
like, you're totally not frightening
Hmm.
me. I know, like I'm not worried at all, and
Yeah.
so
On a more heavier note, when the doctor says, progress is a very flexible word, it can mean just about anything you want it to mean. I think um, the doctor is always judging us in a lot of ways, and many times he finds us lacking. And I liked that phrase when he's looking at the guys and kind of judging them on what they're doing with, the swampies.
right, that's
Yes.
good. Hopefully, I didn't steal yours on this one, but going back to our favorite scene where the Doctor Romana and Ramdot are getting stretched
Right?
out, the Doctor makes this quip: "Stretching is good for the spine. Well, up to a point."
That was my last quote. Well done, sir. Yes, that was it. It was just so perfect. It was just very much.
Only Tom Baker could deliver that line
Absolutely.
so well.
Yes, I agree. Yes.
Any others that you had, or
That's
was
it.
that
Do you
it?
have any others?
Okay. I have one
Okay.
more. This is when the Doctor is confronting Kroll in the final episode. He says, "Well, I've had a good life. Can't complain. Nearly 760. Not a bad age."
Yes. And I
And here he is now. Now he's over 2,000 years old.
anytime they
So
give an age, I always smile because I I'm in modern era, I'm sure a script supervisor and a research assistant goes back and makes sure they're using the same age. But I just have a feeling back in the 70s and 80s,
Oh, they
they
just
just
pulled
pulled
it
a
out of
number
their
out of, yes.
behinds. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Very nice. Um,
760. Yeah, 760
yeah,
sounds
yeah,
good.
let's go with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that because there are some contradictions about the Doctor's
Yes.
age. So, all
Mhm.
right. And that's about it. So, why don't you go ahead and give me your rating on this story?
So I am going to give it 7.5 musical instruments made out of reeds. This is, it was good to see Doctor Who again. Um, it is in a lot. It's a very serviceable episode, but the sequence, as we kind of talked about, helps bring it back to, like, I would have given it a 6 or a 6.5, but that got it up a point for me.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
that's good. Um, my rating is in fact a
Okay.
6 because yeah, just this is not one of my favorite stories. I think it's just it's every so often you have one that just does not work, and this is one of those that doesn't
Right.
work, sadly. So, but hey, one bad story out of the Key to Time season, as far as I'm concerned, that's not a bad deal.
Absolutely.
1 out of 6 isn't bad. So I give it 6 Kroll tentacles.
Nice. Very
Yeah.
good. Good.
As they kind of flail all over the giant model base, or the little tiny model base that's sitting in a riverbed somewhere,
Yes. And
zoomed in to look really
and
big.
listeners, you just missed
But he's
that
going
Charles and I both with our hands to the tentacles
flailing.
Um so as always, you
Yes.
have a reverse the polarity for us, right?
Yes, I do. Hopefully, this one works. I had to struggle a little bit for this one, but I think I came up with a decent one. So we're going to reverse the reverse of polarity back to 2013, the 50th anniversary year of Doctor Who, with the Rings of Akaten,
Okay.
the 7th episode in Series 7, written by Neil Cross, where we have the 11th Doctor and Clara. The Doctor takes Clara to the Rings of Akaten, and they attend this giant alien marketplace. And while there, Clara encounters this little girl named Mary, Mary Galel, the Queen of Years, who is apparently afraid to get a song she's supposed to sing at this upcoming ceremony wrong. And she's really upset about it. So Clara reassures her. Mary heads to the ceremony, followed by the Doctor and Clara. And the Doctor explains that since the rings were settled there, there's been a constant song sung to keep an angry god asleep.
Ooh, okay.
And this is where we get my connection to the power of Kroll. The god, which they call the grandfather, would awaken and consume the entire universe if the song is ever interrupted. So Mary sings her song. This mummy in a glass case is awakened. Mary ends up getting taken by a beam of light from this pyramid, that comes out of the pyramid. She's pulled toward the pyramid and the mummy. So the Doctor and Clara ride a space bike that they got at the marketplace to the pyramid to rescue her. And they find this mummy struggling to escape the case and consume Mary's soul. Okay, so the Doctor holds these group of creatures called a vigil at bay, and the vigil, they're almost like the Swampies in this case, where they serve this grandfather god, and they do that long enough for Clara and Mary to escape, but the mummy breaks free. So another ray of light strikes the planet, revealing that the grandfather is Akaten itself, a planet-sized parasitic creature. So we have a big creature and about to wreck everything, posing as a god, just like Kroll. So Claire and Mary go back to the ceremony while the Doctor faces off against the creature. So we have kind of that with Tom
Right.
Baker at the end. Um, realizing it feeds off its memories, stories, and feelings, he tries to overfeed it by offering the sum total of his Time Lord memories, which still aren't enough to sate the creature's appetite. Clara returns to help, offering Akaten the leaf that blew into her father's face on the day he met her mother, which apparently contains an infinite amount of untold potential that Clara's mother never saw because she died early.
Hmm.
And Akaten is overwhelmed and implodes on itself, and the rings are saved and everybody's happy.
Yay!
Yay! So that was my loose connection to the Power of
Well,
Kroll.
it is a good episode to visit, though I'm a little confused about the leaf. They've used that a couple of times, it feels like, and I never quite know
Right.
what the significance.
Well, that's the significance is that yeah, it just it creates this timeline,
Okay.
this leaf, because if that leaf hadn't blown in Clara's mother's you know her, her face that or her, I mean her father's face, excuse me, then her parents would never have met. She would never have been born,
Okay.
and she would have never gone on to adventures with the
Okay.
doctor. So it's this big chain of events that's created by this little leaf.
Ah, okay. Thank you, Charles.
So hopefully that
So,
helps.
speaking of companions, we got some companion news this week, didn't we?
Yes, we did. So yeah, let's talk about that. So Pearl Mackie, who plays upcoming companion Bill Potts, did an interview with the BBC and confirmed that Bill, the new companion, is in fact gay. So this would be the first openly gay companion on Doctor Who.
Yes.
Now, obviously, everybody rushes to the Twitter and going, "Well, what about Captain Jack? What about River Song? What about Clara?"
Yeah,
Well, let's run this down, okay? Captain Jack wasn't strictly
that is
gay.
correct.
He was Jack is essentially considered omnisexual or pansexual, meaning Jack goes after anything that moves,
Yes, he does.
practically. As long as he's attracted to it, he'll make a move
Right.
on it. So not strictly a gay companion. River Song, not really companion. She's more of a recurring character. And she was just simply bisexual as far as we know.
Absolutely.
So again, not strictly gay. Clara kind of hinted that she was bisexual, talked a really great game, but we never really saw her act on it. So she's basically talked the talk, but as far as we could tell, she never walked the walk.
Right.
So again, not really a gay companion.
Yes.
So hopefully that kind of puts those nitpicky Whovian criticisms aside. But
So I think this is
so this is kind of it's obviously long overdue on Doctor Who.
yeah, and I certainly have no concern one way or another. I think however the story brings us is good. I my hope is she's just going to be a good companion.
Yeah, obviously you wouldn't want her just to be the gay
Right.
companion. You would just want her to be a good character
Yes.
who just happens to be
Yes.
gay. It's not the defining trait of her character. It's just part of who she is.
Yes.
That's it.
And have you tend to be like me, you tend to ignore all the speculation about who's going to be the next doctor and just kind of wait till
Right.
something comes up.
Well, some of it is so ridiculous. Like they a lot of the bookies over in England, they throw out like, well, previous doctors. We're never getting a previous doctor coming back into the role. I hate to break it to you.
Right.
If you really think of previous doctors coming back, that would be a stunner.
Yes.
It's such a long shot. I don't know why it even gets
Right.
considered because the odds of it are so low. Um, there's obviously names thrown about. I think a lot of people are like they throw out their wish lists
Yes.
of like, hey, wouldn't it be great if this person or this
Right.
person? But they don't have any inside knowledge. The only people that really know who they're going to pick are Chris Chibnall, the new showrunner, and maybe Stephen Moffat because of the regeneration scene coming
Right.
up. So, and as far as I know, they haven't even done any casting yet because Chibnall was saying that they were going to worry about that later in the summer because he wanted a vacation after doing Broadchurch season 3.
And now is it
So any speculation at this point is completely moot.
is it going to be, do you think that and apologize, but I have
Yeah,
been in the hospital. Regeneration, is that happening in the Christmas special or?
as far as we know, it's a Christmas
Okay.
special. Yes, because that will be yeah. So what's going to happen is we have Series 10 coming up, starting on April 15th. That will be 12 episodes, just like the previous three couple seasons. And then we have the Christmas special, and that will be Peter Capaldi's last episode as the
Okay.
Doctor. So we have another regeneration at
Good.
Christmas.
Okay. There we
So
go.
yep. So 13 more Capaldi episodes. Let's hope they're all good, and because Capaldi deserves a great way to go out.
Yes.
It's sad that it's sad that he won't be returning as the Doctor, but at this point it's not really a surprise because we have a new showrunner coming in. Obviously, I think they want to use this as a way to kind of like, just like when Stephen Moffat took
Right.
over with a new Doctor, with Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor, kind of give the show a nice fresh boost. You've got all this energy with new showrunner, new Doctor, maybe new
Yes.
companions. So we don't even know that we don't know if Bill's going to be returning
Right.
for Series 11
Yeah.
next year.
I am excited. I am just so ready for New Who. Though this has been a blast, and before we get to New Who, we will be
Yes,
finishing up the Key to Time.
right. So if looking at the
Yes.
calendar, I would like, as long as you're okay with it, I would like to meet in 1 week
Yes.
to discuss the Armageddon
Yes.
factor. So next time on Next Stop Everywhere, we're going to talk about the Armageddon factor, the big Key to Times finale.
Yes.
This is a big episode. It's 6 episodes
Okay.
long, so the total of about 2 hours 15 minutes,
Okay.
if you're wondering, for the whole thing. And it's kind of a big episode. We get the introduction of a new character from Gallifrey
Okay.
in this story. And it is Mary Tamm's last story as Romana, although I will spoil that she does not regenerate in this
Okay.
story.
All right.
So, but that is addressed in the following story, Destiny of the Daleks. But so when they change
Okay.
seasons.
Well,
So
that sounds good.
so yes, we're gonna wrap up, and so I'd like to do that. 1 week from now we talk about the
Perfect.
Armageddon factor, and then the following week we can talk about the pilot, which is the first episode of Doctor Who Series 10, new Doctor Who at
Yes,
last.
and is BBC America showing Class afterwards?
They are showing Class afterwards. So what I'm thinking is what we could do is, I don't think there's that much to talk about with
Okay.
Class. At least the first episode, because Capaldi's maybe in the story 5,
Yeah.
7 minutes tops. So what I thought is we could talk about the pilot, and then at the end of the episode, we could talk about Class a little bit,
Okay.
if that
Yeah.
works. Unless you could watch Class and you decide
Okay.
you want to talk about it in a separate episode. How about
Okay.
that?
We'll decide that.
You can judge and watch it, because I've watched it, but you can watch it and judge for yourself if it's worth talking about in a separate
All right. That
episode.
sounds good. Yeah,
Sound
it
fair?
sounds more than fair. So Charles, if someone wants to reach us and on the show and maybe buy a Next Stop Everywhere T-shirt that I am sprouting,
Yeah.
ha-
You are rocking the Next Stop
I
Everywhere
am.
T-shirt. Yes, you are, and very spiffy, I might add. Maybe we need to come up with a new logo for the new Doctor next year.
Maybe so.
What do you think? Maybe you need to get a hold of Tom
Yeah,
and say, hey, how about a fresh regenerated
we
logo?
may have to talk about that.
But
Yes.
or if anybody else has some logo suggestions, please send them to us, because we'll we're open to ideas here.
Absolutely.
So we may start 2018 fresh as
Okay.
well. But why don't you can reach us at nextstopeverywheresmg@gmail.com if you want to email us. But for those of you who prefer Facebook and Twitter, you can obviously reach us at Facebook at Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. And we're always all over that. So if you want to message us or drop us post to us and ask us questions there, that would be great. Or you can reach us on Twitter at NextStopSNG on Twitter, and we'll be happy to address your questions or concerns or any thoughts you about the episodes. We'd love to hear your feedback. and what you think of our show. What do you think of Jesse returning after all this
Yes, and
time?
we'd love to know
And
your thought of the Power of Kroll. And
yeah,
especially if we have someone who loves the episode, I would love to hear their perspective on it.
yeah, that would be great. Or what you're thinking of the Key to Time. If you're following the Key to Time, doing a nice little retrospective with us, how are you enjoying the Key to Time?
Absolutely.
And what you think? Hopefully, what do you think about how we're handling the Key to Time so far? That would be
That would
great.
be very perfect.
And yeah, please follow us on Twitter, and please give us some likes on Facebook. That would be great as well.
Indeed.
We would greatly. Jesse, where can they reach you?
I am at Jesse Jackson, DFW on Twitter. I am also on the Facebook, Jesse Jackson, Louisville, Texas. We are on iTunes and Stitcher and all other podcast players. Please go to your favorite podcast player and leave us a rate and review. That is how people find us. And Charles, how about you?
Well, obviously, I'm at Charles Skaggs on the Twitter machine, at Charles Skaggs on the Instagram, Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs, Google Plus for all you crazy kids on the Google Plus. Shout out to everybody. I've got over 113 followers off of Google Plus,
Yay,
so
nice.
cheers to everybody. Um, and then my blog of geeky things, damn good coffee and hot.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Nice.
Where I talk about all Doctor Who and Class and all kinds of sci-fi goodness. Got some Star Trek news about Harry Mudd, who we talked about
Yes.
earlier. Rainn Wilson is going to be playing the new Harry Mudd on Star Trek Discovery. So if you're a sci-fi geek, hope you like that. But also comics and whatnot. Lots of comic book news out. Lots of trailers out lately. And my other two podcasts, the Phantom Zone podcast, which I do with friend of the show, Karen Lindsay, who we are definitely looking forward to hopefully getting you for episode 100 coming up.
Absolutely.
Because we just recorded episode 98 last
Nice.
night. So if you feel up to it,
I would love to.
We'd love to have you for episode 100
Good.
if you're feeling good. And my other podcast, Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast, which I'm going to be talking about. I talk with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse, and we're going to be reviewing the original pilot from the original 1990 Twin Peaks series, and then we're going to be reviewing the that's in episode 4, and then in episode 5 we're going to talk about the original series finale, and then in episode 6 we're going to talk about the new series. So
It is coming up, isn't it?
it's coming up, yes. One more month to go, just over a month before we get new Twin Peaks after 27 years.
That is crazy.
So I'm excited as a Twin Peaks fan, and so if you're looking forward, Showtime's got all the. If you have Showtime, you can go back and watch the old Twin Peaks, and then hopefully join us on Ghostwood for the new Twin Peaks.
Absolutely. I saw that today when I was going through Pet Sounds. The making of Pet Sounds is coming up on Showtime next week, and I saw as I was scrolling through, oh, look, they have the pilot of Twin Peaks. So I guess they're showing all the original Twin Peaks there on Showtime, which is very smart.
Yeah, it is. They've both seasons, seasons 1 and 2. So yeah, you could just go on demand and watch them and get caught up. And they're also on Netflix.
Yeah.
So if you don't have Showtime, you can watch them on Netflix as well and get caught up.
Very good. Well, Charles, it's so wonderful to talk Doctor Who again with you.
I'm so glad you're back, and I can't begin to tell you how happy we are that you're out of the hospital, and we wish you nothing but the best for the future, and that hopefully you're on the road to recovery and all will be well.
Well, thank you, and I will take just a minute to all our listeners, and I got a lot of nice emails and Twitter and Facebook posts from wonderful people from both the Springsteen podcast and the Doctor Who podcast, sending love and good thoughts and prayers, and I felt them, and it was I truly feel very blessed. And so for now,
so do you feel like you're liked, that people love you? because we do.
I do feel a little bit loved. And
Hopefully, we're bringing the love
yes.
because yeah, you obviously mean a great deal to
Well,
us,
thank you, Charles.
and
I appreciate that.
and and we look forward to watching or talking more Doctor Who in the years and decades to come. Hopefully,
Absolutely. So I did not have a quote ready, but I guess I will just end with everything else I've did. One of the things Bruce Springsteen, his No Surrender song is a lot of people fighting cancer do the no retreat, no surrender is kind of a hashtag. So I've kind of adopted that. Not exactly original, but it's true. So thanks for the support. No retreat, no surrender. We're going to keep hope alive.
yes, I was doing the keep hope alive myself in honor of you.
Awesome. Very nice. All right. See you later.
Bye,
All
everyone.
right.